Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday night. Good evening, everyone. It's 8 o'clock. It's Wednesday night. And it's the TNG review show. It's 8 o'clock. Oh, there we go. And it's the TNG review show. Oh, why is that? Oh, that's why. It's on my... I was checking the stream on my phone. And I was like, why can I hear that? Where's that sound coming from? Shush, phone, shush. And look at that. Snapsies. We have our blood wine. Coupler!
Did she have her glass
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah.
I did not know this.
Yeah. You and Smiler had the same idea, on the same... Yeah, that's funny. That's brilliant. I love that. Yes. Good evening and welcome to the TNG review show with me, Montalban, and my co-host, Mazim Bob and G-Star. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you this evening? It's your catchphrase, isn't it? Hello. Hey, I can hear you in both ears. How did you do that? Ah, cool. Oh well. A bit, yeah. Magic. Good evening, Stooplam and Nindy Hop. And we are here this evening. Dearly beloveds, we are gathered here tonight to review two Star Trek Season 1, TNG Season 1 episodes, Haven and The Big Goodbye. Hopefully those are the two that you guys have watched as well. We haven't been watching different... Ah. Yeah. Well, I have had a nightmare with my note-taking. So I'm going to give up and go with the web version tonight. And we'll see. This is an experiment from me this evening. I'm going to go with the web version and see if it makes any difference. If so, it'll make my life so much easier. But if it doesn't work, then I'll go back to the same way I normally do it next week. Are you ready? Oh, I've forgotten. What's your nickname, Maz? Goof Girl, that's it. Are you ready, Goof Girl, with some classic goofs or tidbits? Goofs and trivias. Uh-oh, there's something wrong with the stream. Why?
Can only hear Montalban.
Oh, is there some wrong... No? Try talking now, guys.
Talking. Hello.
If you could let us know in chat whether you can hear everyone now, that would be great. But thank you very much.
Oh, I can hear me.
Oh, there you go.
I can hear me.
If only I'd kept the sound on my phone at the beginning, I would have noticed. But I turned it down before I actually checked. Yeah, so anyway.
They're saying try again, Gaz. They can definitely hear me.
Try again, Gaz. Try again.
He's there.
He is here. We can see him.
Yes, sorry about that. It wouldn't be a Monty Band live stream without me completely cocking it up.
Apologies.
Yeah. So apologies. But hopefully that's all working now.
Yeah.
Yes. So first up this evening we have Haven. Let's there we go. Haven. Let me bring the chat back before Smiler tells me off. There we go. Right, Haven. So, it's a Troy episode, this one. I think... don't think we've had a Troy-centric episode yet, have we, in season 1? Not as a sort of main story point. And it's the first episode where we meet Troy's mother, Lwaxana Troy. So we start off with a teaser. The US Enterprise is arriving at Planet Haven, and Picard notes that the planet is said to mend the soul and heal broken hearts. And Data says to Captain that that's completely unsupported, in fact. But Picard believes that such legends are the spice of the universe, as they can sometimes come true. Then we go to Riker, who's sitting in his quarters watching a miniature hologram of some attractive ladies playing their instruments. And it was all a bit like... I'm sure I'm not the only one that thought, what else does Riker use that little holographic projector for?
Would not surprise me.
No. And Yar comes over the intercom and says that he's needed in transporter room 1, and so he leaves and he says, "Sorry, ladies, duty calls," as he leaves his room.
Definitely think in season 1 they were a lot more risque with some of their sexual references they made.
Yeah,
in season 1,
I think
it
so.
wasn't something that was relevant.
Yeah, and
down the line.
I think that was Gene Roddenberry's influence on season 1, to be honest.
And a carryover from the original series, where, sort of William Shatner was getting it on with somebody every week.
True, it's like James Bond sort of scenario, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
James Kirk.
Yeah. So Riker arrives in the transporter room, and the transporter chief informs him that there's an object materializing on the transporter pad, and Riker finds it odd looking just as Councillor Troy enters the transporter room, and basically what's beamed up is a silver box with a face on it.
It's a chest. Yeah,
it's a chest. And then, surprisingly, the face opens its eyes and says it holds a message for Deanna Troy, and that Lwaxana Troy and the Honourable Miller family will soon be arriving, and the momentous day is close at hand. Rejoice! And then
Deanna looks like she wants to do nothing but rejoice right now.
She looks horrified.
Absolutely horrified.
And then a compartment opens on the front of the chest, and all these jewels spill out all over the transporter room floor. And I'm not sure anybody actually told Yar that was going to happen, because she jumps out of her skin when it opens, and it just goes. Yeah, so that's quite funny. I felt bad for the transporter room guy who had to clean all that up. Yeah.
You know who the chest was?
No.
You didn't notice who the chest was?
The face on the chest? No.
Yeah. You didn't know it. Oh, Gary, did you notice? Oh, my God. You're both rubbish. It was Armin Shimmerman.
Was it?
No.
Yeah. It was so obviously him.
Is that one of your pieces of trivia?
Well, I mean, it is, but, I'd know him anywhere. But it's the one of only 2 non-Ferengi roles that he plays in the sort of the Star Trek history, with the other one being in DS9. See, this is more trivia. With the other one being in DS9, where they have the one where they go back into like the 1950s, and he's an editor of a magazine or newspaper. But yeah, there you go.
Oh yes, yeah.
That's a great episode.
Great episode. Yeah, really great episode.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Deep Space Nine definitely ended on a high, I think.
It did. Anyway, so yes, Jules spilled out. and Troy tells Lieutenant Yar that the jewels are a bonding gift, or what humans would call a wedding present, and tells Riker's like, who's getting married? And Troy's like, I am. So she's not very happy
Cue
about
credits.
it. Cue credits, yeah. So then in Picard's ready room, Troy tells the captain that she thought arranged marriage would never happen. She thought she'd like escaped it, and like it was just one of those things that come up in the past, and maybe they've all forgot about it now. But it's caught up with her, and the chaps Stephen Miller and a chap called Stephen Miller was a close friend of her father's, and that they made an agreement, and it was kind of like the Beta Z way. And
then Picard sort of says, so will you be staying on board then?
yes.
And she says, no. And he says, well, congratulations then.
All I can offer is congratulations. Yeah. Addressing the Enterprise's first officer, he doesn't know. As Bill, she tells her former Imazadi that more than anything else, that he wants to be a commanding officer of a starship. And she's like, are you hearing what I'm saying? And he's kind of like, well, that's not everything he wants in his life. But, she invites Riker. She says, I hope you come and dance at my wedding. And Riker promises that he will try, like rather sullenly, and he leaves. He just walks out.
And this is like the second time that she's called him Bill. I mean, the second time this episode, because she calls him again later. But and she did in a previous episode, and then since then or after that, this is like the last episode where he's ever referred to as Bill. Apparently,
yeah.
It doesn't really suit him, to be fair.
One of my questions.
No, it doesn't. Was that a question you were going to ask, G? Is there any other questions?
One of the ones for later on.
Oh, sorry. We didn't have time. We didn't have time to do our normal briefing.
Do you want to text me what questions you're going to do so I know not to do that trivia?
No, I don't think the rest of them you'll have.
Okay. Right. Interesting.
That was the easiest question.
Oh, wow. That's testing Maz's trivia now. So then Data comes in, and he tells Troy that there's a message from Haven, and they wish to beam the Miller family aboard. So they go down to the
Evening, Karen.
Oh, I just forgot to. Evening, Karen. There you go. So back down in the transporter room, they've made the necessary arrangements, and the Miller family beam aboard, and they're greeting the captain, and Troy and Stephen Miller tells Picard that it's quite a starship he's got, and he's looking forward to having a look around. And Victoria Miller warmly greets Troy, and they meet their son Wyatt, the groom to be, and he gives her a chameleon rose, which is a flower that changes colour and depending on the mood of the holder. And he seems quite shy, and yeah.
They don't really, because when he passes her the rose, it's blue, and then when she holds on to it for a few seconds, it turns grey, and they don't actually really reference what that then means, because like you just said, they said that it projects the color based on the mood of the person. Sort of when she takes hold of it, instantly goes grey.
Yeah, and that was sort of one of the goofs, really, is then for the next sort of 10 minutes or so, she's clutching it, and throughout, a whole bunch of things that happen in the next few scenes, she probably goes from, flattered, angry, embarrassed. It stays the same color the whole time, so it's not a very good chameleon.
No. Yeah. So Victoria Miller seems to be, from what they're saying as they're welcoming them, she seems to be disdainful of Troy's mum, and wants to go to her quarters. Picard agrees and has the Miller family escorted out of the transporter room. And Picard remarks that Wyatt looks like a fine young man. And Troy agrees, but she notes that she senses from Wyatt she's not what he expected for some reason. Which we will look into why later on. But it's one of those sort of foreshadowing things. Before Troy's, they have to get out of there because she senses that Troy's mum doesn't want them to be around when she beams across. So they go off to go to their quarters, and Troy warns the captain that her mother is a little eccentric. And so Lwaxana materializes facing back to front on the transporter pad, and she's like, "Hello, where is everyone?" And then she's like, "Oh, the wrong way," which I thought was quite a nice little, nice little funny thing. And she's transported across with her very, very tall chaperone, or what do they call him? He's a
Mr. Hom.
Mr. Hom.
Valet.
Valet, that's the word. Thank you, G. With her valet, Mr. Hom. And yes, Troy says, "Hello, mother." And Lwaxana is a bit dismayed that her daughter's chosen to speak verbally rather than telepathically greet her. So she berates her for it. And she turns to the captain and she's like, "Don't tell me you're the captain." And Picard's like, probably thinking that she's sensed that he's the captain. But she's like, "Well, no, who else is going to be, greeting me?" And he offers to carry her luggage, which I thought was quite chivalrous of Picard. And he picks the luggage case up, and it's this big round golden case thing, and it seems to weigh a ton. It's funny watching Picard struggle, like, because he's not the biggest man, is he, Picard? And he's like struggling with this absolutely ginormous case. And then,
yeah, I don't think he offered. I think she told him that she wanted him to carry it.
oh, was it? Was that it?
Yeah.
Was it? Oh, yeah.
And Deanna was like, "You don't have to," and he's like, "No, I would. It would be my pleasure." And then he tries to lift it, and he's like, "Oh," you can instantly see this look of regret across his face. I've got a couple of little bits, actually. I mean, as you mentioned, this is the first time Lwaxana Troy's been in it. Obviously played by Majel Barrett. And we all know, obviously, what Majel Barrett also plays in Star Trek.
The computer voice.
But apparently it was a full year till she was actually credited as computer voice, which I didn't really realize. So this really was her first sort of TNG credited role, even though she, is the computer voice. And I think we were talking a couple of weeks ago about who's been in the most episodes. And of course, Majel Barrett has, because she's the computer voice. And the second highest is Worf, because we were debating between Worf and Chief O'Brien, weren't we? And Chief O'Brien is third. So those are the top three people of who's appeared in a number of episodes of Star Trek.
Yes, because Majel Barrett Roddenberry was also Nurse Chapel in the original Star Trek. And she was also number one, the first officer on the pilot episode of Star Trek, The Cage. So she's played multiple characters.
There was also a bit of a continuity error in the scene where her and Hom come on board, where from one shot of the transporter, the round lights in the top are off, and you see a close-up where you just sort of see her closer and she's getting off the transporter and the lights are off, and then it goes further away and they're on, and close-up and they're off, and further away they're on.
Oh, really?
So it's a bit of they've obviously got they've shot the scene twice, and as they split between the two views, the lights go on and off several times.
I see. I didn't notice that. That was another one. Smiler says for me to raise a glass of blood wine. Tell her when I need it refilled. I see. Well,
and Karen's already raised her cup several times, but Smiler is not refilling it.
No. Oh dear. Yes. Then we cut.
Can I interject with my question?
Go for it.
One of my first questions. It's a bit of a hard one. So, you guys might be able to join in as well. So viewers, put your answers in the chat, and Smile, if you don't mind, if you wouldn't mind repeating the question. So, as Mark was just saying, Waxana is just beamed on board with her valet, Mr. Holm. As they're walking down the corridor, and Captain Picard is struggling with the case that he's been asked to carry, they're having a bit of an argument, and Diana asks her mum, "What happened to your last valet?" And the question is, what was the name of the previous valet, and why did he get fired? What was the name of the previous valet, and why did he get fired?
Right, there
Everybody hit Google.
I know why he got fired.
And you guys as well, you can put your answers in the chat as well if you want.
I have no idea.
I know why he got fired, but I don't know what his name was. But I'll let other people see.
I happen to catch it.
Oh, well done. Which
It's a bit of a tough one. It's the toughest of all questions that I've got.
That is a toughie, I have to say. That is a tough E. Who was his
It'll
name?
get easier as we go in.
Yeah. Okay, so that leads us on to the fact that we're now with Picard as he's leading the Lwaxana party down the corridor, and he's straining to keep hold of the luggage. He's sort of barreling down the corridor past Data and Geordi. They find it quite amusing to see Picard sort of struggling in that way. Up to a point where Deanna stops it and basically insists that her mother's valet, Mr. Holm, carry the case for himself, as this is not, the ship has customs like the Betazoids have customs, and it's not to ask the captain of the flag of the Federation starship to carry your luggage. So Picard's like, oh, no, it's fine. He's trying to be diplomatic to everyone, but as these two very strong women are sort of arguing, but the valet, Mr. Holm, ends up taking the luggage back, and it's quite funny because they've obviously emptied the weights out of it by then, because he picks it up and with absolute ease, and it doesn't look like it weighs anything. It just sort of swings there, It's just makes me laugh, but. Yeah, he picks it up with ease and carries on, and Picard almost does a double take as he just sort of swings off with the bag.
Oh, Kazdi Kondo. Tell ya, he's the man with the knowledge. Sorry, carry on, Mark.
Yeah, pornographic thoughts, that's the one. I know the reason, but I didn't know the name. So where were we? Yeah, so he gets back. Lwaxana tries to fill the silence with small talk, and she talks about her last valet, Mr.
Zelo?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Because Deanna asks where what happened to him, and he's like, yeah, I had to fire him because he was having too lewd thoughts about me. It was distracting, and it was becoming almost pornographic. And she's going on, how men are that way, and they get into the turbo lift, and Picard's trying to tell the turbo lift where to go, and the computer doesn't hear him because Lwaxana's wittering on. He's like, excuse me.
Very just noticed that Kazdi got the almost correct answer. It was I took it down as Mr. Zeno.
Zeno
with an N, not an L. Mr. Zeno.
Well, it's pretty damn close.
Who knows?
Correct on the point of why he got fired.
Now, who's right though? That's the question. Is Kazdi right or is G right? There's only one way to find out. Fight!
Yeah. It's a Netflix match. Who can get on Netflix the quickest?
Yeah. So yeah, Lwaxana and the turbo lift's continuing to witter on about.
It's Zelo.
It's Zelo, is it? Yeah.
I knew Kazdi would be right. He's Too much of a perfectionist to have gotten that wrong.
And she's going on about how she's outgrown the Millers because she's a betazoid, and they develop faster and further, and how they're more advanced than the plodding humans. And eventually Troy's had enough and mentally says that's enough, to tell her to stop talking. And Lwaxana's like, oh, finally, you're actually using your powers. Lwaxana finds her quarters adequate, and she basically dismisses Picard and tells him he can go. And so the captain sort of diplomatically bows out of the room. Quite grateful, I think, inside to be making an escape. And then Lwaxana quite nicely apologizes to Troi for the sudden marriage, that she was sort of blindsided by it herself, and she just happened to meet the Millers, and they tracked her down and reminded her of the vows that they'd made.
Are there any pictures that you need to move on? Just asking. Not that I know, just thought I'd check. And the quarters that it goes on to the banquet. Yeah. The quarters that they put Lwaxana in have got these kind of beaded curtains. I don't know if you've noticed. There's about 4 or 5 of them throughout the quarters, and it's the only time they're ever used. They never appear in quarters ever again after this episode.
Right. Is that right? I did notice them.
They look like they're like sort of big fringes of pearls. There's quite a few of them throughout the room. Anyway,
something they just put on for Lwaxana, probably. Yeah. Something from her home.
May well be.
Yeah. Blah blah blah. But she sensed, even though she was blindsided by it, Lwaxana felt that Wyatt was an unusual person and sensed he had remarkable depths within him. So maybe give him a chance. On the bridge, LaForge reports that a message is coming in from Haven, and the first Electrine of Haven appears on the view screen. Hopefully this is not a question or anything. Veledra Innis, the head of Haven, she tells Picard that them being there is fortuitous because they've just received word that they got an incoming vessel that's bypassed their Stargate. They're Stargate, they got Stargates on this planet. It's passed by a Stargate and it's failed to communicate their intent, so they're being treated as hostile. And as Haven possesses no defensive capabilities of their own, the Federation has an obligation to step in.
I mean, it's quite interesting, this idea of a Stargate, because actually the ship, they don't encounter it to a little while later, and it's still quite far away. So theoretically, that Stargate must be a barrier sphere of some kind, which if you extrapolate how far out that must go, it must be massive.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
No idea. Whatever that Stargate is, it sounds like quite impressive technology, which seems odd that she has, then says they have 0 defensive capabilities.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that. Well, yeah, we don't know.
It might just be a bunch of probes, I guess. Probably.
It could be just like a warning system.
Yeah.
And I guess because it's like they're so peaceful and they just like full of healing and stuff, that they don't expect anybody to come there with any bad intent.
True.
So yes. Meanwhile, Troi visits Wyatt Miller in his quarters, and she wants to apologise for her mum's behaviour. And Wyatt says it's fine. Her honesty is refreshing. And he begins to tell him a bit about himself and that he's a medical doctor, and Troy's quite interested in that. And he's like, well, surely you know that because you can read me. And she said, well, we'll be able to read each other eventually because we'll develop this sort of like bond. She says, I've done it before with another human, so I know it's possible. Someone on this ship, actually, funnily enough. And he's like, oh, have I got competition then? And she's like, no, it's he wants to be a captain, and it's, there's nothing good. You've got nothing to worry about there.
There is like an element of like, why would he have not known what she looked like?
Yeah.
I mean, even in this day and age, with something like Facebook, you can see what a lot of people look like. But as a Starfleet person, he would have been able to look her up her, profile on any computer anywhere. Plus, like their families were friends, so like she should have appeared in pictures. And so the whole idea that he would never ever have seen her, being that their families were intertwined and this information was readily available, seems a bit far fetched.
Yeah, it's a weird one, to be sure. And then that leads on to the fact that Troy sees these drawings, and she's like, I thought you'd be an artist because I can see you like drawing. And then when she looks at the drawings, they're all of this one woman, and she's like, oh, so this is what you thought I was going to look like. No wonder I was a bit of a surprise to you when you appeared in the transporter room. And Wyatt tells her that he's been seeing this face ever since he was a boy. And she's been whispering to him and just assumed that it was Troy. And but he's like, that was all just childish things, and you're very beautiful, and I'm honoured to be marrying you. Anyway, so
there is a on the wall in his quarters. There's like a picture of kind of like almost like a Milky Way or like a galaxy looking thing, and then when they go and look at the pictures on the side, the pictures flipped around the other side, so its orientation changes. They must have done that as a separate take.
Yeah. Back on the bridge, Data's obtained an image of the rogue vessel that's approaching Haven, and when the Forge increases the magnification, Picard asks Data, is that the trouble I believe it is? And Data replies, indeed, it's a Tyrellian starship. And so Picard asks Dr. Crusher to report to the bridge at once. I will not allow them to destroy us, the Enterprise, or Haven. So, dun dun dun, something really bad about this ship. We go to an advert break at that point, if we had advert breaks in in Netflix. Then in the observation lounge, the crew are discussing the problem, and Riker and LaForge suggest the ship's being damaged because that's why it's going so slowly. So they've got like 13 hours, whatever it is for them, before it reaches Haven. And Data explains that Tyrellia, their home world, was like Earth, but they had a civil war, and basically one side, using biological weapons, infected the other side with a plague, and then that spread all over the planet and killed off most of the people. They tried to escape the plague and infected other worlds as they went, and then rather than be infected, other people started just wiping them out. If they found them, they just destroy them before they spread their plague throughout the galaxy. So
yeah, they started hunting them down, which seems pretty harsh.
It is. It's a harsh place out in that galaxy. It's harsh. And he also tells the crew, you've got your assignments. And also you have a voluntary second assignment. There'll be a pre-joining announcement of Troy and Miller. And as Picard's talking, Riker just gets up and walks out. he's like out of there.
Clearly not a happy bunny.
He's not, is he? It's in this episode. It's Riker's job to walk out.
Yeah, he does it a lot.
He does it
about 5 times.
This is about the 3rd time he's walked out in the middle of, he's just yeeted out of there, and it's not going to be the last.
Nope.
So in the lounge, Victoria Miller's asking Picard if he will perform the marriage ceremony, and Picard's like, oh yes, of course, I'm the captain, I can do that sort of thing. But Loxana is not happy about that, because she's like, no, he doesn't understand the Betazoid culture and whatnot. Mr. Hom will do the ceremony, and Victoria's like, he doesn't even speak. She's like, he can do sign language. They're really bickering and irritating everyone. And
Did you know this is the only time they use the formal dining room?
Oh, no.
First and last.
Is it really?
Any other formal events later on happen at 10 forward.
Yeah. So Picard states that in the Starfleet tradition, all disputes must be at social gatherings are not permitted, and all disagreements must be resolved. So he's trying to like hold everything together in the most diplomatic way possible. And later, Picard raises his glass in a toast to Diane and Wyatt, as well as their families, and because they're all sat around. This is the meal here that we see in the picture, and Mr. Hom in the background is busy drinking away glass after glass, much to Data's intrigue. And,
I mean, Data, when they're all arguing, he's basically got a look of unabated glee on his face, which for somebody who's not supposed to have any emotions, it's like, why is he like, he just looks so happy about everything that's going on. It's crazy.
I'm not sure if it's happiness or it's like fake happiness. Like it's supposed to be a happy occasion. So everybody's supposed to be, smiling at each other. So he's just got this fixed grin. He's just,
Perhaps, but then he does sort of say to Picard, you might not find this as fascinating as I do, but to me this is amazing.
Yeah.
So he does seem to be getting a kick out of all the arguments. And what he says to
Later
Hom as
when,
well. Sorry.
When Diana bolts it, he even says, like, after they've all gone, he says, "Oh, please continue. I'm finding it really interesting."
Yeah.
Intriguing, yes. Yeah.
And Hom drinking as well. Data's like, with the amount you drink, is there any human in you? And Hom does this really hilariously theatrical.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And
Talk
swigs
about like
downs another glass.
Theatrical head toss. It's like hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that.
And
It's the
annoying
kind of thing your dog does when you go to kiss it.
Yeah, they're all right licking you, but if you try to do it back to them, they're like, oh no.
Don't come near my nose.
Yeah. Yeah, funny. Yeah, and the other thing about Mr. Hom there is he stood there swigging drinks because he's got a little symbol that he's chiming every time Lwaxana Troi puts a mouthful of food in her mouth. He chimes the chime, and it's really irritating. If I was at that table, I would have been so irritated by that.
Apparently their traditional way of giving thanks for food.
Apparently so, yeah.
But it's only a tradition she likes to employ when she thinks it's going to annoy people.
That's right. Yeah, she's just doing it on purpose, just because she knows it's irritating. And I think at that point, Riker excuses himself again. He's like, I've got something to do. He yeets out of there again. And so Lwaxana basically is going on about how it's going to be a Betazoid wedding, and at Betazoid weddings, Data asks her about it. Actually, he's trying to like generate conversation. So he's like, how does the ceremony work then? And she's like, well, first of all, everybody's naked, and which I think some of the crew are like, what? And then she makes a big gesture that Mr. Miller is excited at that prospect because he would like to see me naked and all that sort of things, because he harbours, lustful thoughts for me, and that's why we see that picture there of Victoria looking really angrily at Lwaxana. And it was at that point then Troy's even had enough of this, and she storms out, knocking over Hom's chime as she walks out. And it was at that point Data leans over and I don't know what he says, but he says, "Oh, please continue to bicker. I'm finding it very intriguing." So then in the holodeck, I think I've got a picture. Riker's sitting on a rock, feeling sorry for himself in a sort of desert simulation. When Troy enters and she asks if she can join him, and she's like, "Yes, sure."
Oh, there's a dad joke from Stu Plum. He said, "What bad chiming."
Oh, that's
I don't even know what to say about that.
That's great. That's perfect.
Perfect chiming.
Perfect chiming. Yeah, love it. Very good. Very good. Yeah, Riker admits that he's going to miss her, and he calls her by her first name, and Troy's taken back and is like, "Am I no longer Imazadi to you?" And he says, "Well, you taught me that word means my beloved, and I don't think that's really appropriate anymore." So they're talking about, humans find it difficult to separate platonic love with physical love, and Riker admits that he can't, not now. And as they're sort of like going backwards and forwards, Wyatt walks in quite awkwardly, and he's marveling at the holodeck. And at that point, he's come in. He's like, "Oh, this is amazing, this holodeck thing." And Riker's like, "Excuse me, I've got to leave."
Yeet.
Yeet. He's off again. There isn't a scene he can't walk out of in this episode. And Wyatt basically informs Troy that everything's been sorted out, that they've come to a compromise because they realise that they've annoyed Troy and everybody else, and they come to a compromise. And she makes a joke. We're going half naked? And she said, "No, I'll go naked. You'll go naked, and so will Loxana, and my dad. But the rest of the party, including my mum, there won't be." And then they kiss on the holodeck.
Yeah, they're getting along famously.
Yeah. We've lost G.
We have.
G's done a Riker.
Yeet.
He's yeeted out of the stream. He's like, "No,
Hopefully he'll be
out."
back.
Listen.
He's back.
Are you there?
I can see him, but he's not moving. Oh, he is moving.
I think he is. He doesn't look... No, I don't think he is moving.
Oh, no. He moved a little bit and then stopped.
He did.
Let's continue anyway.
Shall we just continue?
Yeah.
Nod if you can hear us, G.
Yay! You're just going to have to generally move about so we know when you're frozen or not. See, he was jiggy with it and now he's frozen. At least we know he's frozen.
Yeah. Is everything all right, your end, G?
He's frozen again.
No. Yeah.
So the Terralian ship's getting closer.
Oh, yeah, I was reviewing an episode. That's what I was doing.
And they decide to get them in a tractor beam.
Yes. They do. They get him in a track beam, and they refuse to answer the hail. And then Innes, the head of the Haven, contacts the Enterprise, fearful of the plague ship approaching. He's going to get into transporter range, and they're going to turn this wonderful world of ours into a graveyard. Please take action before it's too late. Basically, she wants the Enterprise just to blow it to smithereens. Mm-hmm. How peaceful a planet are they? But finally, the ship sends communication, and on the view screen, they appear, and Troy instantly recognizes the woman in the front of the crowd of people that's on the view screen as the woman in Miller's drawings.
Do we have a picture?
I don't, but I have one from the end of the episode.
Okay.
So you'll see her in a minute. So the final act is the leader of the Terralian group introduces himself as Ren and explains that the 8 people remaining on the ship are the last people from their people, and they just want an isolated beach. They're not looking to bother anyone. They're not looking to spread anything. They just want an isolated little corner of the planet that they can basically go and live out their lives in peace. But I mean, the Haven people are not going to be having any of that.
Did you notice his seat?
Yes, is it Worf's?
It is.
It's from Worf's quarters, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah. Later then gets used in many episodes. Like it lists all the episodes, but yeah, lots of episodes. It then gets used in Worf's quarters.
You'll see
the one with a big tall seat with balls on the end, on the ends of the sort of. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You'll see a part of it in the background of the next shot.
Yeah.
Wyatt consults with Lwaxana about why his thoughts were of this woman and who he now sees is real. And later, without any hesitation, he takes a small case from sick bay, leaves, basically pockets a hypo spray, enters the transporter room, distracts the transporter chief and hyper sprays him so he falls asleep, and beams across to the plague ship.
Yeah, he says a little bit of a goodbye to his mum and dad and Deanna before. His mum and dad are just like, he says, take care of each other. And they're like, what? But Deanna can tell that he's about to do something. You can tell from the look on her face that she can read that he's about to do something. And then he beams over. Yeah.
You can see here, that's the lady that he was drawing.
And that's the seat with the balls on.
And you can see in the background the bally seat thing that's in Worf's quarters.
Yeah.
G's come back to us.
Cool.
Can we hear you, G?
I'm hotspotting off my phone at the moment, so.
Yay.
Yeah, well, it seems to be working better.
Sorry about.
That's all right. So yeah, Wyatt communicates with the Enterprise and explains he's decided to remain there and cure the Tyrellians because he is a doctor after all. And his parents, they're all in shock, but they come to respect his decision, and the Tyrellians agree to move on with Wyatt, so they'll be moving on and not bothering Haven. And the Enterprise releases them back into space and warp away and continue on their mission. So, yes, that's Haven.
The only thing I wanted to add is when Lwaxana leaves, Hom speaks. It's the only episode where he speaks. He says, "Thank you for the drink," or something like that. And like the look on Picard's face and the look on Riker's face, they're all like, which is quite cool. The only time he speaks, he does. Yeah.
It's like, "Thank you for the beverages."
Oh, and just as she leaves, Lwaxana says, "Captain, what thoughts you are having about me?" and dematerializes. And then Deanna's like, "Don't worry, it was just a joke." He's not amused.
One thing as well, another thing that I noted that wasn't in these notes was that whilst they were bickering in the, at the dinner, at the reception thing, Lwaxana does her famous, Victoria says, "Who do you think you are?" And Lwaxana's like, "Who do you think I am? I'm Lwaxana Troi. I forgot.
Holder of the third rings of the Beta, whatever it is she says. She's got a long list of stuff.
Fifth generation of the House of Beta Z, holder of the rings of whatever's. But it's a famous sort of like trumpeting speech that she makes pretty much every time she's on the show. It's the first time she does it.
It's cool. There's a couple of other bits that I noted. Did you notice there are a couple of characters missing? Pop quiz. If you can get them.
I'm going to go with Worf.
Correct. Do you know the other one? G?
Let's see.
I can take a guess.
No,
Smiler Rainbow might know.
I'll guess. Shall I guess?
You can guess.
Wesley.
Wheaton!
Yeah.
Wesley was in it.
When?
Nope.
He was in the meeting that they were having.
No, I don't.
Oh no, that's in the Big Goodbye.
Yeah,
that's the next episode.
Sorry, I'm getting that confused with the Big Goodbye.
And the only other thing that I've noted that I haven't said previously was The whole reason why they went to Haven was apparently for shore leave, except there was nothing about anybody ever beaming down. And then when they wanted to leave, there was nothing about bringing back the people from shore leave. So it was a little bit odd that they seemed to just go there for shore leave, hover around the planet, deal with the crisis, and leave.
Yeah.
Anyway.
A daughter of
My kind
the
of shore
Beta
leave.
Sed's fifth house, holder of the sacred chalice of Rix, and the heir to the holy rings of Beta Z.
There you go.
Yeah. That's
You're
the
going to have to
one.
practice
That's
that,
just
Mark.
what she does in the bedroom.
Is that where she keeps her holy rings of Beta Z?
Holy rings of Beta Z.
Nice one.
Oh dear. Yep, it's a story. It's got a main story and it's got a side story. It's with the wedding and the plague ship. So it's got a bit going on. It's got some funny lines from Loxana, and the interplay between the Troys is pretty good. But it is a stay on the ship kind of episode, isn't it?
Are we going to go for a score?
Right, I've got my score pad.
I think Gary
Kirsty's
needs to
just
say
raised
his
the point.
verbally first. The Tellarians wanted a place to stay, but in the end they took Wyatt and left. Yeah, because I think they wanted a place to just die. But then Wyatt joined them, and as a doctor, he kind of committed to help try and cure them. So I guess they saw that they had a bit of a future then. And once they saw him, they saw like this kind of destiny unfolding rather than just an end to their civilization.
Also, when he beamed onto the ship, when he come off their transporter pad and walked to the bridge, he walked down a corridor, and on the wall of the corridor were loads of sketches of him that she had drawn from her dreams and her sleep.
From their point of view, it was almost like the second coming of their savior or something, is that kind of thing to them, I guess, somebody that they've been thinking about and looking forward to meeting for years, somebody that they think may well save them.
Yeah, he's done a lot of things since.
Oh yeah, most things I see him in, he's like a baddie.
Yeah,
in things
he's-
like Prison Break and stuff.
Heroes.
Yeah,
He's in Heroes.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like a
in
carny.
Heroes. He
Like
was
an
the
Irish
gypsy.
corn-
in
yeah,
Heroes.
gypsy. Yeah. So yeah, he's been in quite a few things.
So we're scoring the episode like our personal rating.
Yep, out of 10.
Out of 10. So
Okay, so my score would be a generous 3.
generous 3.
Okay.
Okay. Ready?
1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
Ooh, 3, 5, and
Oh, you
6.
didn't tell me there was no.
Sorry.
You didn't tell me there was numbers to hold up.
Well, yeah, we got these on about the 3rd or 4th episode we did. You clearly haven't been watching
Just
our
goes to show he
episodes.
doesn't actually watch our own live streams, doesn't it? Yeah. There you go, G. What a bother.
And we're keeping like an average of them each week.
Yeah. So, hang on.
I mean, I quite like this episode. I quite like the Betazoids. I think, there was nothing sort of really terrible or cringy about it. I think Loxana was quite good. Couple of humorous moments. Yeah, it wasn't, it wasn't an unpleasant one for me. It was good. Anybody in chat, if you want to tell us what you think scores out of 10, let us know.
3, 5, and 6. That's what we have, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I've written it down. Yeah, if anybody in chat wants to say what they would have scored the episode out of 10. As I drink my blood wine.
And next is the big goodbye.
It's the first sort of holodeck centric
Yeah,
episode.
Yep.
Gee, you didn't ask your third question from that last episode, did you?
Stu Plum
No, I
says a
only had
7.
2 questions
Casty Kondo
per
says a
episode.
4.
Oh, okay.
And Stu says 7. Yeah, so basically, I only have 2 questions per episode. And the other one was about when they were in the holodeck, when Riker was sitting on the rock. A really choice place to sit on a rock on the holodeck. And and Troy comes in and Wyatt's in there, and the question was, she refers to him by two names, Imzadi, and what's the other name? And
Bill.
obviously you said it a lot in the beginning
Bill.
of the episode.
Yeah, Bill.
Bill.
Are there any questions
strange.
for the
She's
next
never
episode that you want to get in early?
Do you want to ask the first question?
Or is it not time?
No, it's not time yet, and
Okay.
I don't think this is going to be something that comes up. So I'm fingers
Cool.
crossed it
Fingers
isn't.
crossed, then. Okay. Smiler has ordered you your score paddle.
She's ordered you one of these.
Oh,
It's on
bless
its
her.
way. It's on its way.
Okay.
So yes, in the teaser, the Enterprise is en route to meet the Gerada on a diplomatic mission, and Picard's been appointed by Starfleet to attempt establishing a relationship with them. And the captain must recite a complicated greeting in their native tongue without a single error. Otherwise, it will fail.
I know you're reading it, but it's actually the Harada, and it's one of the only, it's thought to be probably the only alien name in Star Trek ever to use the kind of the Spanish pronunciation of a J.
Yeah, I say that's Spanish, isn't it? Harada,
Yeah.
that would be.
Harada.
Harada,
Yeah,
okay.
there you go. First factoid.
It's good.
You
Yeah.
got a picture for the big goodbye.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, let's move on.
Moving on. There you go. The big goodbye. Here we are. Right.
Kasdi said he enjoyed it, but he thinks that the last one, he did enjoy it, but he thinks it was a bit of a throwaway episode, so hence why he gave it a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was giving it a 5. It's just not bad, but not great. It had some funny points in it with Data and Troy. It just wasn't, it's middle of the road for me. Middle of the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got to recite. He's been practicing with Troy the speech in his ready room for hours and hours and hours, and he's a bit fed up with it. And Troy says that the captain should take a break and maybe go and relax in one of the new holodeck upgrades. The holodeck, I think, up to now, has just been good at having scenery. It's like if you want to go and see a woods or stand on a cliff and look at the view or something like that, it's good for that sort of thing. But it's had a significant upgrade, and it can now the computer can now play characters.
Now kill you.
You can now interact with holographic people. And Picard's face brightens up.
Historians can find that.
Yeah, the holodeck tries to kill people more often than bad guys in Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yeah.
So yeah, he brightens up because he realizes he's been wanting to try out a Dixon Hill holodeck program, and Troy tells the captain that the program's been installed and is waiting for him. And so he goes down to the holodeck, and
So my first question.
Go on then.
So yes, as Mark was just about to say, he goes down to the holodeck, and the first thing he says to the computer is, well, basically the computer comes back to him and says, "What time period?" And I've got 3 choices of his answers. So the first answer is A, 1939, B, 1941, or C, 1942.
Ooh.
A, B, or C?
As he's starting off the holodeck program, the computer asks him which time period, and he says A, or the answers are A, 1939, B, 1941, or C, 1942. Put your answers in the chat. Don't use Google. Don't use Netflix.
Guess if you have to.
Guess.
Yes, Smiler Rainbows just reminded me when we watched this, I was like giggling because going into the holodeck for the first time reminded me of a scene in Below Decks. I don't know, have you guys seen Below Decks yet?
I have now, yes. Whole series.
Yeah,
Love it. Great.
and they're cleaning out. They got the job of cleaning out the holodeck filters, and they've got the panels off the side of the holodeck. And they're cleaning out all this gunge, and he's like, "What is all this?" And I think she whispers to him, And he's like,
do they really use the holodeck
do they
for
really
that?
use the holodeck for that? And she's like, that's all people use the holodeck for. It's like, oh, it's so gross. Just cleaning all this goo out of the filters. It's like, oh god, that's got to be one of the worst jobs on a Starfleet ship.
Sonic shower it.
Sonic shower it. Yeah. There you go. The choices are 39, 41, or 42 there, Kazdi.
Karen's guessed C. We'll see what other people guess.
Yeah. I'm going to guess
Not
A.
that that was a guess. Maybe she knows it's
I'm going
C.
to guess 1939. That's what I'm going with.
And Kazdi thinks it's either B or C. He thinks it's 1940 something, but can't remember what.
Anyway, he enters his office there. We see the door of his office. He's a private investigator. And Picard's really impressed with the upgrades. And in his office, he's met by a Mrs. Jessica Bradley, who claims someone's trying to kill her. And she wants to hire Picard to find out who.
And they're all like, what are you wearing? So when he comes back, he's told he must wear a suit.
Yeah, they're all taking the mick out of him. Like, what
are you dressed for Halloween?
Halloween. And he's like, and when he walks in and she's like lounging in the chair, I think she's even like smoking a cigarette or something, and she like looks him up and down, and he's like, I lost a bet. Yeah.
Don't you find it's interesting
Cue
that he's a
credits.
private dick and his first name is Dick?
Dick. Yeah, I'd never noticed that.
Dixon,
Gee.
Dick.
It's like Dick Tracy.
He's
Yeah.
a private dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so run the titles. So Act 1, Bradley briefs Dixon on her predicament, and she leaves the office. Bradley takes Dixon's business card with her and kisses Picard. This would be a continuity thing that I'm sure Maz is going to bring up in a minute. Leaving lipstick on his upper lip. Picard turns to the window and he looks out and he sees like cars and things driving around, and he's fascinated by like the depth of what he sees. And he leaves the simulation for the time being. I think he's going to go off and get dressed into something more appropriate. But
just to go back to that, where he's looking through the window, it almost looks like the car's going to drive into the window. Did you notice that?
No,
It's like the car at the end is coming right towards the window.
It's kind of like superimposed, isn't it,
Go back
in the
and watch
background?
it.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
And when he pulls the blinds down, they sound like metal blinds. And then that close up, they suddenly look like wooden blinds. And then further away, it looks like metal blinds again. It's all a bit of a weird little shot, that.
Concoction of a shot.
There is some bad continuity in this episode.
Yeah. Just as he's leaving the holodeck, Mr. Leach knocks on the door and opens it, and to his surprise, finds that even though it sounded like there was people in there a minute ago, the room is now empty. Should we go to the answers? G, we've got a few guesses. I guessed 39. You've had a 42.
Yeah, guesses of
My guess is 41. So we've got,
and
a
Stu
guess.
guessed 1941 as well. So the choices were 1939, 1941, and 1942. The correct answer is 1941.
Oh, well done.
Now, I
Stu
didn't
was
remember
right,
that.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't remember that from the holodeck, but I actually kind of know that because of a related factoid. So for the music geeks out there, when Picard originally enters the holodeck, there's a song playing which is called Out of Nowhere, which is a song by Johnny Green, lyrics Edward Heyman, and it was recorded by Bing Crosby. And the interesting thing about it is that it's what they call a contrafact of the Star Trek theme tune. So the chord progressions and the melody match exactly the Star Trek theme tune, well, the chord progressions do. So you could overlay the whole Star Trek theme tune on that old 1941 song, and it would match as a harmony.
Wow.
So just a little interesting factoid.
Interesting.
It's really hard to do it. I was trying to do it earlier. I was trying to like hum the tune over the top, and it's hard to do because you're sort of distracted by the music. But you can tell, even as you listen to it, you can sort of hear it's got there's similar sort of chords that it goes through, and you can almost sort of hear it in your head. But that song was in 1941, so really interesting.
Did they record that especially then, like Bing Crosby, or
what did he record it
Was it a
especially in
song that-
1941 for?
He knew Star Trek was coming.
Yeah, I don't.
That's such a weird coincidence, or whether the person who made the Star Trek theme tune,
Yeah.
that
Whether or not they,
song.
I don't know how they picked up on it, but I think like the writer of the show wanted to include that piece of music because it had that same chord progression and it was from 1941. So yeah,
Right. Well,
interesting.
I don't know if just to remind me, Smiler could put the name of that song in the chat, or maybe Maz, you could write the name of the song in the chat.
Yeah, it's
just
Out of Nowhere.
Out of Nowhere. Right, I'll check. I want to look that up now and listen to it myself. I don't want to play it just in case it's out licensed by someone and I'll end up being demonetized. But not that I'm ever going to get monetized, but I don't like to.
The version of it in the episode had a lady's voice, so there's been different sort of recordings of it over time. But yeah, you can just sort of look it up on
I'll look
YouTube
it
or what
up.
have you, and sort of hear those kind of familiar chord progressions.
Yeah, okay.
So let's talk about the lipstick.
Wow.
Yeah,
yes.
so yeah, he leaves the holodeck,
He
lipstick smeared all over his face, and of course nothing that's from the holodeck should be able to leave the holodeck.
I was expecting as he walked down the corridor that they'd do some digital wizardry and make the
Just
lipstick
disappear.
because that would have been cool. But no, it just stays on there. And in fact, then Picard calls a meeting in the observation lounge with the senior staff to discuss the Harada mission. See, I got it right that time. But before starting the meeting, uncharacteristically, he really all he wants to talk about is the marvels of the holodeck and the upgrades and how fantastic it is. And he invites Dr. Crusher to come accompany him, and she's all quite. She's like, "Oh, I'm being invited to the holodeck." And then he's like, "Oh, along with Mr. Whalen, the 20th century historian." And Dr. Crusher's like, "Oh, right, yeah." And Mr. Whalen as well, of course. And then after he says that, Dr. Crusher removes Jessica Bradley's lipstick from his lips. Well,
Half removes it. She didn't do a very good job.
no, she doesn't. But yeah, it's not supposed to be there because it was holographic.
That's in the meeting that Wes is in the meeting.
Wes is in this meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
So the conversation
Which I
turns
do
to the
find
Harada.
peculiar.
Sorry.
Which I do find peculiar because they're sort of having a briefing about, how they're going to manage the meeting with the Harada and the risks and stuff. And I just find it strange that they chose to have him in there.
Yeah,
I
this
think
is the
he's only an
senior
actor,
staff. This is the senior, this is like the board of directors of a company meeting, the top brass of the ship and Wesley.
So why not have their acting ensign?
He solves all their problems for them, so you might as well have him around,
Yeah. I mean, they're the ones. It's giving it away. It's going too far ahead in the episode.
Yeah,
but
wait.
it's just like, why
Hold
is
your
he
horses.
doing
Whoa, Nelly.
Yeah. So yes, they start talking about the Harada, and Riker starts the briefing, noting the requirement that Picard has to perfectly enunciate the greeting. Data further emphasizes this, starting to mention it in great detail of the last Federation attempt some 20 years ago, much to the captain's annoyance, and ends the meeting sort of since he's seen enough. Data and Geordi discuss Dixon Hill after the meeting in the corridor and compare him to Sherlock Holmes, which intrigues Data. So he decides, probably whilst he's on duty, he goes and reads every piece of Dixon Hill literature the ship has to offer.
Yep. Question alert.
Oh, I love a question.
So, the Dixon Hill series had an author, and the name of that author was A. Tracy Torme, B. Sharon Susan, or C. Linda Lamont? So the author of the Dixon Hill series was Tracy Torme, B. Sharon Susan, or C. Linda Lamont.
Interesting.
And they don't actually mention this name.
No.
They don't mention it.
No, it's just on the screen.
Oh, right. Okay.
As Data is reading all the comes up with the author's name.
I'm going to have a guess at it, but I'll let other people guess first. But no, I didn't notice it on the screen. I did wonder on the screen, though, Mark, whether there might have been like a parrot with a Gene Roddenberry face or something. But I did try and look, but I couldn't see. But I know you said that sometimes appears on screens
Not
when they're
this
going
one, I
through
don't
stuff.
think.
Cool.
It was just
Okay.
text. Can I guess? I think it's...
Yeah? Do you want me to go?
Initially, I thought Linda Lamont sounded right, but I don't. I think it's A. I think it's Tracy, whoever it was. Tracy Torme.
Torme. That's also my guess, and I'll tell you
I
why
think
later.
Tracy Torme, I think. It's ringing bells.
Let's see what other people. Yeah, he says there's no way anyone would get that. Tracy Torme, that's Kazdi Kondo.
Oh, no,
we
I
know
got
he's
it.
like, he's the, yeah, well, I know we got it, but
got
that's
it.
if it's right. But yeah, Kazdi the nerd probably is right.
Yes, Tracy Torme.
He did call himself a nerd earlier, by the way. I'm not insulting him
You
there.
nerd. We're all nerds.
Do you know why it's Tracy Torme G?
'Cause she
Well,
wrote it?
assuming that's
No.
right, because she wrote the episode.
Did she?
That's why I was guessing it was her, because she wrote the episode. But yeah,
No way. Really?
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there you go. So that was a bit of a question and a bit of
And
trivia all
it's
coming out at the
Torme
same
with
time.
an E and a accent, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, you know, Linda Lamont did sound a bit... It could have been
Like
Linda
a PI
Lamont.
writer, yeah.
Yeah. It sounded right when you said it. And then I thought, no, I'm sure it's a Tracy. I'm sure it's Tracy. But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tracy Torme.
That's nice for a writer to be able to put their own name into an episode like that in a subtle way. That's quite cool. Hadn't noticed it, but thanks for pointing it out, G.
No worries.
Yep. So Data decides all on his own that he's going to accompany the captain and Wayland on the holodeck excursion. So he arrives, and the three of them at this time, without Crusher at the moment, enter the holodeck. There they are, walking onto the holodeck.
Do you
Getting
know
run
that
over.
this is the Paramount New York backlot studio set? So although it's supposed to be San Francisco, this is their New York backlot.
It looks New Yorky, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. There's no hills to be seen.
No.
No
Just
fog.
saying.
Kitted out in full 40s style clothing, they arrive in the middle of a busy San Francisco street. San Francisco. Data almost immediately attracts the attention for not being around there, and Picard claims that he's from South America.
And they say we can tell because of his tan.
Yeah. It reminds me, I think it's in the original Star Trek, I think it's is it the City on the Edge of Forever? And they go back in time
Yes.
and meet, what's her
Where he
name?
says he's from the north or something.
No, he's like about Spock, and they're some police have come up to him, and he's like, I see you've noticed the
Oh, yeah.
ears. They're easy to explain, really. He got his head caught in a
mechanical rice
picker. And then the policeman's like, makes sense. Yeah.
Excellent.
With Data, though,
I love
made
that
so
episode.
much more sense to that he was an albino.
Yeah, that would have been, mate. That would have been, yeah. He's an albino from Brazil. I don't know, wherever.
From Albania.
From Albania. An albino from Albania. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so the newspaper stand seller they're talking to see, he's got a nice tan. reading the paper, Picard notices that Jessica Bradley has been moided, and he feels sorry that he couldn't have done anything to stop it.
There's also a little like reverse Easter egg. I know an Easter egg is something people put in for you to have a reference to, but this is like almost a reverse one. But they go on about this DiMaggio and how like he lost his winning streak in baseball and stuff like that. And I don't know if you know, but then later on in Deep Space Nine, it's revealed that he lost his winning streak to Bok Bukai, and Bok Bukai became a bit of a running thing in Deep Space Nine.
He did, yeah.
So yeah, just thought.
That's cool, yeah. Wayland reminds Picard that she's only a character in a story, and so, don't get too het up on it. And then 2 police officers arrive and accuse Picard of Jessica's murder because she had his business card on her. Hello, Chris. Chris has arrived. Yeah, so you're keeping yourself on silent between speaking.
Yeah, I've got a little mute button here because he keeps shouting.
Yeah. Yes. So yes, he's getting arrested. Back on the bridge, the Harada send out a long-range probe and commence scanning the Enterprise, which disrupts the system's ships momentarily, including causing the holodeck doors to open and close repeatedly. The Harada then attempt to communicate with the Enterprise, more specifically with the captain, but they are offended to hear that only Commander Riker, a subordinate, will be able to speak to him, and they're disgusted by that.
And they wouldn't go on screen, which apparently was a budget issue for not really having to want to decide what they look like. But it was supposed to be this cool hive thing, and like the writers had this really great idea of what they look like, but they just didn't have budget for it.
Yeah. So Riker tells LaForge to go and find the captain. I'm getting topped up. Riker tells LaForge to go find the captain in the holodeck. It's at that point Crusher enters the holodeck. There we go. And with some difficulty, because every time she goes to walk into the holodeck, the doors open and then sort of close on her and then open, and she's like, "Oh, is it letting me in?" But she does get in eventually. She's going to wish that she hadn't gotten in, and that she'd been kept outside. I think a little bit later, but she doesn't really think anything of it. She meets with Wayland and Data in the lobby of the police station, and Data confuses her with his newly learnt 40s accent. He's gotten into the sort of lingo of the time.
He's really good at it as well.
He's like, "Well, I'm talking to you. What's that going on, Sam?" He's talking like that, isn't he?
And he uses contractions, which, obviously his programming shouldn't allow, but I guess it's explained away by him sort of mimicking the vernacular of the time. There's also a few, just to throw some more nice words like vernacular into it, there's also a few anachronisms in the police station. So there's a water cooler with like a plastic top thing, which it should have been glass, like that wouldn't have existed in the 1940s. And apparently the police sirens as well, like modern police sirens, they're not the ones from the 40s either. So you could see that as, being an error with the episode, or you could see it as being the person who programmed the holodeck program didn't know enough about the 40s to make it accurate enough.
Yeah,
let's explain it away that way.
I like those old style sirens on those police cars. It reminds me, do you remember, what was it? Is it Police Squad? You remember that old comedy series with...
Yeah.
The Adventures of Police Squad. And it's like, you got like a top of a car with a siren. And it'd be going down the street, and it'd come off the street, and then it would go like through someone's front room. And then through someone's bedroom, and then while someone's having a shower, so,
Yeah, I know the one you mean. I remember now.
Yeah.
So one thing I found quite humorous in this scene when they're in the police station is when the police officer gives Beverly a chewing gum.
Right. Oh yeah, she swallows it.
Eats it, and then immediately swallows it.
Yeah.
And then you just got this face on her.
He's like looking at her like, "Ooh, weird broad."
I think,
Because in the 24th century, people don't chew gum.
fortunately for her, it'll disappear when she. Well, it might not, depending on whether it's made of lipstick, but it should disappear when she leaves the holodeck. But I think the whole thing with Crusher, the way she's
Lipstick.
basically like looking at the other women, and she's like, "Oh, they wear their skirt like this, and they're doing that, and oh, they're taking out this mirror," and she's sort of mimicking everything they do. It's just quite a little cute, there's no dialogue, but it's quite sweet, like watching her take in her surroundings.
She's really excited to be there and get involved with it all, and she's really enjoying it. And
They're like, "Oh, he's being
She's
interrogated," and she's like, "Let's save him." And they're like, "Well, we think he might be enjoying it." And she's like, "Why is he having all the fun? I want to be interrogated."
Data's like,
She seems
they're keeping him on ice.
she seems positively frisky throughout this whole scene.
Yeah.
Like when they're leaving and talking about going back to Dixon Hill's office, and then the other guy and Data say that they want to go as well. She just like rolls her eyes as if to say, "Oh, I wanted some time alone with it."
Well, it's just after this moment here that's pictured, and they have like a proper moment.
So
Lingering looks,
where
very
she's-
sort of
he
close,
says, "Oh, you
staring
wear it
directly into
well."
each other's eyes.
Yeah. I'm getting to it. Outside the holodeck, LaForge has arrived and he's discovered a problem with the holodeck controls, and they can't get hold of the captain or the rest of the team inside. Dun dun dun. But don't worry, we got Wesley Crusher, I'm sure. Wesley and Riker leave the bridge and join LaForge outside the holodeck to look at solving the problem. Enterprise has flagship of the Federation has a problem. What are they going to do? Get their acting ensign on the case straight away.
Nobody once tries beaming them out, just to say.
No, they don't. They
Entire
don't try
time.
that. No. Inside the holodeck. Yeah, that's another
continuity issue
Yeah.
that they don't try beaming them out.
Picard realizes he's got to be getting back to the bridge soon to greet the Harada. And manages to worm his way out of the interrogation. He finds Dr. Crusher in the foyer, and he finds that she's getting some unwanted attention from a desk sergeant. She's distracted from him by Picard's return, and they both look at each other for a lingering moment, and this is what we're seeing here. And at her request, they all head back to Dixon's office before leaving the holodeck. However, Leach is waiting for them when they arrive, and he pulls out a gun. Meanwhile, at the holodeck doors, Wesley and LaForge are still trying to fix the problem. Wesley proposes the problem started with the how do you pronounce it again? Haradan?
Harada.
The Haradan probe. Again, Wesley's the only person on the Enterprise to have suddenly come up all these weird things started happening after the probe visited us. Maybe it did something.
Question alert.
Yeah. Question alert.
Yeah, I'm going to get this one in now because I know it's going to come up later. It's the easiest one of the night, so have a bit of fun with this one. Get your answers in quick on the comments. So there's a big bad boss in the Dixon Hill story. What is his name? A, Mr. TikTok. B, Mr. Big Block. Or C, Mr. Red Block. There's a big bad boss in the Dixon Hill story. His name is A, Mr. TikTok. B, Mr. Big Block. Or
Big
C,
Block,
Mr.
yeah.
Red Block. Get your answers in quick, guys, because it's an easy one.
Was the first one TikTok, did you say?
Yeah, TikTok.
That's great. I want it to be that. Mr. TikTok. Yeah, well, Cassidy's got it already.
So this is the only episode as well where Tasha Yar is in command, just to say.
I think he's got it right. I think it's right.
I think it's right as well.
That's right. He's got the right answer.
She's not happy with us saying that. Any other guesses? Anyone?
Go on, someone
Anyway.
say TikTok.
I mean, let everybody else guess first.
All right, look, I'm doing it. Look, hang on.
isn't Big Block from Robots? What's Robots?
I don't know. I think
It's not Mr. Tick Tick, by the way. It's Mr. Tick Tock.
Mr. Tick Tick.
TikTok. I got it right. Well, no, I didn't get it right, but I got the TikTok bit right.
Well, G did say to have fun with it.
Yeah. So Wesley's proposed that it's the Haradan probe. Yar communicates from the bridge saying that they've arrived at the Haradan sector, but there's been no further communication, so Riker decides to wait. In the holodeck, Leach continues to detain the crew and demands to know what Picard's done with a certain object that Dixon Hill was hired to find. Wayland acts tough in front of Leach, so Leach fires a shot at him. He basically shoots him. Wayland falls backwards, and initially everyone thinks he's just acting. They're like, "Oh, bravo! What great act!" But
and then they see the blood.
Yeah, and they see the blood as and they're like, oh my god. They realise that the holodeck safety protocols that are supposed to be there to prevent injuries obviously have been deactivated. And so Dr. Crusher rushes over to tend his wound. She then finds that he's suffering from a massive internal injury and he needs to be taken to sickbay immediately or he'll die. And Leach sort of comes closer to have a look. What's that? You right, G?
What are you laughing at?
You're laughing at?
Yeah, no, just laughing at the way you said, or else he will die.
Die.
It's like, yeah, he's shot
Or
in
that
the
sense of
gut.
impending
He's
doom.
going to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an eternal injury, yes. A bullet from a gun would tend to do that.
Yeah. Especially a gut punch like that. When Leach comes out closer, Picard rushes him, knocks the gun out of his hand and punches him. And he runs out of the office. Captain tries to order the holodeck exit, but gets no response. And then Data goes off to try one of the other exit points, but again, to no avail. And the computer's not responding to any commands. And then on the bridge, the Enterprise, which has arrived at Torana 4, has arrived without resolving the holodeck program. So Riker announces to the repair team that they're running out of time before the radar expecting Picard's greeting. Back in the holodeck, Dr. Crusher, struggling to keep Wayland alive while Picard and Data search in vain for a solution. But at that moment, Leach returns with a thug of a man. Oh, no. Oh, sorry, I missed a photo. That's when he got
blood.
the blood.
Every time I say blood, I have to reach for my blood wine.
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
This was
Yeah,
Casdy's
can't have
idea
anything
as
to
well, to have blood wine in the goblet. I did thank you for this earlier in the episode, Casdy. I think you might join a bit later, though.
There he is, Mr. Red Block. So those people that guessed Red Block, there you go.
That actor looks very, very similar to Marlon Brando.
He does a bit, doesn't he? He's got that sort of Godfather-esque
He
way
always
about him.
plays those same characters.
He's either that or like a Bond villain. He's not that kind of
Yeah.
look about him. Where was I?
I don't know
So
what you were saying about him.
yeah,
He comes in with
the thing
Leach.
he's Cyrus Red Block, and he proceeds to look around Dixon's office searching for the object. He tries to get Wayland removed from the room, but Picard objects and Leach strikes Picard on the face with his gun, cutting his mouth open. At that point, Officer McNary walks into the office and is surprised to find Cyrus Red Block and his cronies there, and he's like, nice company you keep there, Dix. Red Block then notices Data and he asks him where he comes from, and Picard decides to reveal that where they actually come from. We're from another time and space. This is a different reality, and we come from over there, and none of this is real, and all that sort of thing. But they're unconvinced. So Data then exacerbates the situation by revealing that none of the other characters are real. Not only are we from out there, but you're all fake. And Red Block wants to test Picard's theory by shooting one of them, and instructs Leech to shoot Dr. Crusher. But before Leech pulls the trigger, Picard says that he has the item that they're looking for. And Red Block's intrigued and calls off Leech. Picard then tries to bargain with Red Block to try to save Weyland. Meanwhile, back on the bridge, Riker attempts to contact the Harada, only to receive an earful of angry insect noise buzzing sounds. Hoping for better luck with the holodeck controls, he contacts LaForge and Wesley comments that the problem can be fixed, but it cannot. But if it is not done properly, the hologram will abort and everybody inside the holodeck will vanish. Now, why if the holodeck just aborts its program, surely the people inside the program that aren't holograms will just be left stood in an empty holodeck.
That's one of the errors, actually, is, Wesley says something about, everybody inside could vanish if we do this wrong, which, that could never happen.
No, it's not.
They're never going to vanish.
It's
dematerialize into the computer as a program.
Sorry to rewind about 5 minutes, but I also find it quite annoying that they find themselves in a situation where one crewman's already been shot because the holodeck safeties aren't working. And if Captain Picard was really responsible, he would have just gone, Data, dispose of all of them. Because Data wouldn't have been hurt by the bullets, and
Correct.
he could have just put them down. And,
that's absolutely one of the.
Had to do all this.
Yeah, he should have immediately. He should have immediately jumped into action.
Irresponsible of him to not do that. That's every time I watch it, I just think. Irresponsible.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that Picard's the one that gets up and then, smacks the guy with a gun or whatever is like, Data's got superhuman speed and agility and strength and, is probably bulletproof. So he should have just sprung into action and just dealt with them all.
From,
he's shot again.
From first contact.
Yeah, he just doesn't affect him at all.
Doesn't do any, but he doesn't do anything in this episode to save them or help them or defend them.
No. Picard should have just been Data, take them all out.
Deal with that.
Done.
Yeah. I just honestly think that Picard was enjoying himself too much and just wanted to carry on with the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So self-indulgent.
Yeah.
Irresponsible captain. I don't know.
Yes, so they're all going to vanish. Also, he could have just got Data. You could have found a wall, even though the computer doesn't. The door doesn't physically show itself. Surely you could find the edge of the wall, and using his super strength, Data could have just smashed something. I don't know.
They could have done that from the outside as well.
Yeah, just smash your way in.
With a phaser.
Phasers, just
so
open the door.
Explosive.
Differently.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway.
Again, they didn't even try beaming, so why would they try any of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So inside the holodeck, they're still trying to explain the way things are to Red Block and his team, but vocabulary's getting in the way and not really understanding what they're talking about, and Leech is getting even more edgy with the things they're talking about. He's not liking it at all, and he demands that he should be allowed to kill Data. And I thought, yeah, do it, try it, go on, do that, see how that works out for you. At that moment, the holodeck scenery changes to a windy, snowy alien environment, much to the astonishment of the holodeck characters, and just as suddenly they're back in the office again. But as they're so shell-shocked, whilst they're stood there shell-shocked, the holodeck doors open. which again, this kind of surprises me because like the holodeck doors open and there's nobody there.
Ever signed the door.
There's nobody there. It's like they're at the secondary exit, but they didn't
crowded
post.
full of people
They didn't
trying to get them out.
They didn't post anybody at the secondary exit.
Well, this is the thing, though. This is the only episode ever that there are 2 exits in a holodeck.
Yeah, there aren't, are there? There's not really
No,
in any of the others.
only
There's only
episode.
one.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't think they really went to the effort of trying to explain that there was a second door.
Well, they did earlier on in the episode. Picard says to Data, "Go out into the hallway, see if you can find the second exit." And again, this is the second exit, but where that is, why nobody's trying to get into that exit also, or the fact that there, ever since that one episode, there's never been a second exit to a holodeck. Those things are not explained.
No. The holodeck exits appear and they open and they reveal the Enterprise corridor. Picard remarks to Red Block and Leech that that's the way out to their own world. And it's full of riches and things. So Red Block and Leech decide to leave the holodeck and explore this new world for themselves. But of course, they're holograms, so and they're not made of lipstick. So once they're outside, into the corridors of the Enterprise, they start to dematerialize. Yeah.
But as we know from any later sort of episodes, they should have, where the holodeck doors are, if they put their hand out, they shouldn't have been able to go beyond the bounds of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they gradually dematerialize.
There's no emitters out there for them to hold their
so they
image.
shouldn't have even been there at all.
No. Data takes the remaining Thug's gun and bends the end of the barrel, pinches it so that it can't fire.
Could have done some of that stuff earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
could have demonstrated that you're not human.
Yeah. And then he picks up Waylon and carries him off to sick bay, accompanied by Dr. Crusher. Lieutenant McNary, who has befriended Picard throughout the episode, realizes the possibility that actually his own reality's in doubt, that he's not real. And he's like, when you've gone,
That's quite a
will
sad
this
scene.
continue? Yeah. I always feel a little bit sorry for holodeck characters.
I had to go home to my wife and children.
Yeah, no.
It's like, oh my God, what a shame.
No, sorry. Yeah.
Well, he says, honestly, I don't know.
No, he doesn't know, but no, he's a computer
Liar,
program.
God.
It's not going to happen. He's just going to be turned off. And they'll probably reset it for the next person that comes in. He won't know any the wiser. Picard then rushes to the bridge where he recites the greeting perfectly, much to the relief of everybody on the bridge. Here we go. He looks very dapper in doing it too. And then the Enterprise leaves Tirana 4 and carries on its mission.
Being that they never actually see him on screen, Data could have easily delivered that greeting message, or at least helped Picard, being like that Data has all languages programmed into him. Should have been able to put it down phonetically or something to make his life easier, but that was never really considered. But I've got 4 other points. Just as they were leaving the holodeck there, took about 4 or 5 minutes for them to leave, even though apparently this was all super urgent. They hung around, they talked to the holodeck characters, on the bridge, they're like, this is all really urgent. And they're just chatting away for 5 minutes before they actually leave the holodeck. But the only other things are that apparently originally there was an idea that they could shoot the holodeck scenes in black and white.
Oh,
They
right.
did actually shoot, the holodeck scenes and the non-holodeck scenes kind of completely separately. They treated it like a separate sort of thing because, they were so different in style and texture. And Oh, Joel's in tonight.
Joel is here.
Yes, they had the same conversation with Moriarty. I was just thinking that when G Star was saying about, will I still be here when you leave? He had exact same conversation with Moriarty.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. You read my mind. So they were thinking about shooting it in black and white, but apparently, like 2 of the writers wanted to. 2 of the other people said, well, no, because like the holodeck would have no way of actually making people look black and white. That's just crazy. Which I guess is a fair comment. But then obviously many years later in Voyager, they actually do that with what's it called? The Captain. It's like I can't remember what Kazdi will know. Joe says he had something else on earlier, so he's late to the party, but he's joined us now. But yeah, Captain, I can't remember what it is. It's the one that Paris has got this program where he's back in like the 60s. It's like a sci-fi black and white, and they all look black and white in there. And
Captain B something.
Can't remember. So they do actually make characters black and white in Voyager, but yeah, the idea stemmed from here with potentially making the Dixon Hill black and white. And the only other 2 things other than the Out of Nowhere song, which I mentioned earlier, was that this award won a Peabody, which was the only Star Trek episode ever to win a Peabody Award, and it also won an Emmy for costumes. I forgot to mention the last episode as well. Haven won awards for their hairstyles, apparently. So yeah, that's all the factoids I have.
Yeah. One thing I noticed on this is sometimes Con and Helm at the front there in this first season, they're so close together they're almost touching, and then sometimes they're further apart and people can actually like walk between them. They move, and I actually noticed in this episode, it was either this episode or Haven, I can't quite remember which one, but it was at a point where they were further apart. You can actually see there's slots, there's grooves in the floor at the base where they can slide the whole thing to the left or to the right, so they can position them closer together or further apart depending on how they want to frame the shot. So like on this part here, they want to frame the shot where you can see the 2 people sat together, so they're pushed close together. But then on other times, they have them further apart. But I happen to notice that.
Had not observed that.
Captain Proton.
That's
the one.
I knew Kazdi would.
That's the badger.
Do it for us. Captain Proton. Yeah.
Yeah, right. He's right. He's like old Flash
The
Gordon.
Queen of the Arachnids.
Episodes, yeah.
No, Queen Arachnia, I think it is, isn't it?
Queen Arachnia,
yeah. Queen
Great.
Arachnia.
So that's about it for tonight then, I guess.
Yeah, well, we're going to score this one.
Joel can, go back and watch the episode from the start if he's so inclined.
Yeah. Right,
yeah, score for this episode. And if you've got scores in chat, feel free to tell us what you think. G Star, what are your recs?
So, with this episode, there's quite a lot of bad camera work and bad editing. But I do agree that the costume was great, and I understand why they won an award for it. I particularly like this episode because, as anybody knows, I wasn't the biggest fan of the original series, but there was one episode of the original series where they went to a planet that was based like in the 1940s, and it kind of reminded me of that. So I always had a fondness for this episode when I first watched it. So I'm going to give it, with all its faults and its strange choices, I still love it, and I'm going to give it an 8.
Wow. You went from a 3 to an 8. That's quite extreme. Kazdi's gone for a 3 or a 2. Dislikes it more than the last episode. Are you ready for your score, Monty? 1, 2, 3?
I'm ready. Ready?
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So I love this one too, actually. I think, I think it's got a lot of humor. It's got a lot of character. It's pretty much, equal to one of my favorite episodes that we've watched so far, which is why I've given it an equal highest mark to what I've watched so far. So yeah, I do love it. I think it's great.
The other thing that I didn't say is around the time that I first ever watched this episode, I was living in America and I was practicing and studying for a part that I played in a play which only had 5 characters in it. And I played the main character, which was Spuds Idaho, which was a private detective. And I was on stage the whole of the sort of hour and 30-minute performance. And Spuds Idaho and the whole thing was a lot like Dixon Green. And so it just had that connection with me. So I've always loved it for that reason. So one of my faves.
Very cool.
Joe's mentioned that the original episode was called Piece of the Action.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and they treat the Federation like gangsters, don't they?
Yeah, they are. They're one of the gangsters.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. It's one of the ones from the original series that I really enjoyed. I can remember watching, and this just sort of had that same vibe to it, and just the way that they did the costume and got it kind of feeling right.
Yeah. Like Kirk speaks their language, doesn't he? And he's like, "Yeah, you think you're gonna cut the Federation out? We've come for our piece of the action." And it's amazing how many original series Star Trek episodes is where they came to planets that look suspiciously like Earth, like whatever Backlock. They happen to be filming, I don't know, a war film or something, and We've got a thing that's like Nazi Germany, because that's the set we've got on the backlog at the moment. So it's quite funny. Well, that's come quite high there. I put it as a 5, the same as the last episode, because I think they're both solid episodes. I don't think either of them are really. I think because of the obvious flaws in the logic of the plot, like why not beam them out? Why not break the door down? Why they wouldn't disappear with the holiday? There's a lot of why don't Data sort it out? Lots of annoying things with this episode, which kind of takes you out of the suspense, because it's just a bit too irritating.
You could probably do that in most episodes anyway. I mean, your score
we'll
does
find out,
surprise
won't
me
we?
because obviously this episode was quite well received, as Maz was saying about the awards that it won, and
all of the actors.
It must have.
They
resonated
all said
with
this
the
was
cast and the crew,
amazing.
because they went back to it so many times. Dixon Hill came back into it so many times. So your score does surprise me, because I think this was quite in the passage of TNG. This was quite a significant episode.
To be honest,
Monty's voting with head. You're voting with heart. That's the difference.
Well, there's part that, and also we need to get G a paddle, because G came in with a very strong 8, and up to that point I had 6, but I surreptitiously
you made it a 5.
Made it a 5.
Antagonistic.
That's terrible.
That's
if you watch it
show.
back and he says 8, you probably see me like going.
I hope none of the writers of that episode are watching.
Lack of
They'd be so
integrity.
Oh dear, I've gone all red now. So I changed it to
I'm
a
shocked
6,
you even
so.
admitted that.
Yeah, I just
Funny.
thought, no, I can't have that. 8? What? No. Bring this
You're
average
just
down.
trying to bring the average down. Oh, that's shocking. I think Kazzy did that all on his own. Smiler says 7, agrees with me. That's good.
All right, I tell you what, I'm not above. I will go back up to a 6. Look, there you go.
Kazzy took it down from a 3 to a 2, so maybe he was also trying to bring G's average down.
You're right. It is the beginning of the Dixon Hill sort of set of episodes and the holodeck episodes in general. It's the first of the holodeck tries to kill them episodes, which is again a bit of a genre thing with.
It was all the little things for me. It was like the little stuff with Crusher, like the stuff with Data, all the accents, and I don't know. There's just so many like lovely little rich bits about it that just made it a really pleasant episode for me compared to some of the others where it's like they go on an alien planet, they have some controversy to deal with. To me, this was a richer episode from a human point of view.
You've sold me. I've upped it. I've gone back up to a 6. Joel agrees with a 6. I think.
Hey,
he's calling our whole process corrupt.
Funny.
But yeah. So what we're gonna have to do, G, is you're gonna have to go back and score all the ones that we've watched so far because
and we can alter our averages.
That would be hard.
We need your scores on the doors.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I'll message them to you.
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me this evening, Maz and G Star.
Pleasure.
Before we go, let's just have a quick look up.
Looking at
TNG season.
which are the next 2
1.
episodes to watch?
Yeah, I'm just wondering. The Big Goodbye, Haven. Datalore is up next.
Ooh.
Datalore and
Nice.
Angel 1.
It's our pleasure, Kazdi. Thanks for joining us again this week. Might see you again next week.
Yeah. Yes, thank you everybody in
Yeah,
chat
thanks, guys.
for joining us
Come
this
up
week.
with some harder questions.
Um,
Geekoids.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
get the geeks.
yeah, you're
It's
gonna
our
have
pleasure, Joel.
to.
Thanks for joining
You've got a job
also.
on your hands there, G. I think. Yeah, you got a job to do there. But
As
yeah.
long as people promise not to use Google or Netflix, then it can all be fair play
Yeah.
True.
because you can Google anything.
Yep. So join us next Wednesday at 8:00 for Datalore and Angel 1. Cheers, everyone,
Very cool.
and have a good rest of your week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Cheers.